You are listening to Co-Create Your Life. In this podcast, we delve deep into the law of attraction, dispel common misconceptions, and give our listeners the tools they need to build a magical, purposeful existence in their everyday lives. Reclaim the creative power you already possess and join us at cocreationcoaching.org/create. That's cocreationcoaching.org/create.
Welcome to Co-Create Your Life. This is episode 23, Why Your Desire Should Resonate with Your Core Essence. I am Brandon Oliveris.
And I'm Christine Oliveris.
And I'm Justin Williams.
And today we are discussing a very deep topic, I think. I'm excited about this one. About why your goals, your desires ideally should resonate with your core essence. I'll describe what that means later. And how to tell the difference, whether your desire is coming from an egoic level or whether it's coming from a soul essential level, and why one is better than the other. And there's lots of things to cover about that. So before all that, we have some announcements to make as always. If you would like to see the show notes for this podcast and leave a comment if you like, you can go to cocreationcoaching.org/create023. And if you'd like to ask a question, that will be covered again somewhere, usually in the reader's questions, but I'll announce it here anyway. You can go to cocreationcoaching.org/ask and submit your question there. So, before we get started, we have a new segment as of last week called Quote of the Week. And this week's quote is from Rumi, which is one of my favorite poets. Rumi is great. And so every week we try to choose a quote that matches the topic of the podcast, and the quotes are posted on Wednesdays on the blog, so you can see them there as well. So again, this week's quote is from Rumi, and so here is the quote. When you do things from your soul, you feel a river moving in you, a joy. So that is a great quote and very applicable to our topic today, because again, we're discussing doing things from your soul, acting on your desire out of a soul level interest, out of your own essence, and letting that desire resonate with your deepest being. So now, why is that important? Basically, when you have goals, of course, not every goal is going to be resonant with your core essence. I mean, that's something, it reminds me sort of the hierarchy of needs.
Maslow.
Thank you. Yep. I was going to ask.
Of course. I'm a mental health major. I should know.
Our neighborhood psychologist.
Oh, please. I'm not. That would be probably Justin, right?
I did have a psychology undergrad bachelor's.
Oh, okay.
So, so did Christine. Well,
mine was mental health.
And I got a master's in vocal rehab. But yeah, Maslow, he's good.
Maslow. So it's like the hierarchy of needs. You're not going to start out with just right away going after your core essence, your desire, You
need your
deepest
food
desire.
And water and stuff first.
Right. You need all the basic stuff. You need to be making a living, to be getting by, and all that kind of fun stuff. But our ultimate goal is to be living out of that core essence, living out of that deepest level of our soul, where everything is just consistent. Everything is resonating with that part of ourselves. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't do this, and I think it's important to bring this up. And we did discuss this recently, I think, even a little bit in last week's podcast, I believe. But it's so important to have a goal that really is resonating with yourself, with your deepest self, because that is going to have the greatest chance of succeeding. Right? Because when it's just something on the egoic level, or something that's out of fear, or something that is not as deep as it needs to be or should be, you're just not as into it. You're not as invested in it. So it is so important that, you know, you do eventually get to a point where you are living out of that part of yourself. And we'll describe more how to get to that point. And I mean, it's a lifelong journey, though. You know, it's not something you can just do overnight. You know, wake up tomorrow. Oh yeah, I'm living out of my core essence, out of my soul. It's something you move towards for a lifetime. So you're not going to listen to this podcast and suddenly realize, hey, that's my core essence. I'm going to live out of that now from now on. You know, it's not going to happen. But the point of all this is getting to that point and closer to that point, so that most of what you do is coming out of that essence, and that you do it in a way that is still supporting you. Because a lot of people will try to, you know, live their dreams, but it's not quite there as far as subconscious programming is concerned. So they're not really able to make a living from it. You don't want that. So you want every part of your life to be in resonance with that core essence. And when it is fully in resonance, then you'll be effortlessly able to support yourself from it, to let every part of life be affected by that in a positive way. And that's really the value of living from that place. Right. So, again, how do you tell the difference? Because a lot of desires come from ego, and a lot of desires come from the soul. But it's not as easy a distinction as people might think. Because as spiritual people, a lot of you listening to this probably, we tend to draw a false dichotomy between, I guess, material things and spiritual things. Let's say that, right? And so we think, okay, well, if my desire has to do with making a lot of money and physical pleasures or of any kind, then it's not on a soul level, right? But if my desire has to do with something spiritual or healing or light work, people call it, or anything on that level, then it's my deepest core essence.
Yep. And real quick for me, what I was doing, you know, even did just now, but I've done before, is just what I would literally do is ask myself, higher self, so what is the essence of my soul, and just let it tell me. It has
Right.
nothing to do with an job or an activity or a physical activity. And we're just, what are those words or images that resonate or that align with my soul?
Right.
And then everything else you're trying to get to affect that.
Right.
You let that be a part of it.
Right. So, you know, it's not so clear cut as we think. You know, it's not that, well, if we want to be a millionaire, that's obviously ego, and if we want to serve the world and blah blah blah, then it's obviously spirit. Like, you know, it's not like that. What I would say is the difference is your motivation. What's your motivation for doing this? And, you know, if your motivation is fear-based, where you do this thing because it's the thing that'll make money, it's the thing that will support you and your family, even though you're not super joyful about it, and that's going to be ego-based. Okay? Or it could be any area of life. That's just the simplest. Let's say relationship. You're with someone, and, you know, I mean, every relationship has problems. But let's say you're with someone that you're not super psyched about, but it's, you know, you're getting older and you kind of feel like time's ticking, and you have to do something, and so you stick with that person because they're there, you know, and you can make it's good enough, right? Or because of the children, or, you know, you don't want
Yeah, I heard that
break
a
up
lot.
the family, right? That's going to be ego based.
Yeah, I've heard that one. The children. Well, I'll stay with it for the children. Oh, I know it seems like a good reason,
No.
It's not at all.
It's not at
Because
but
I'll tell you,
it's not.
my parents are divorced.
Yeah.
And I don't think they could have done it if they waited for us kids to grow up.
No.
My sister she was older when they got divorced, or when they separated. She was in her 20s, but I was 15, and my younger sister was like 10.
Right.
So they certainly didn't wait for that to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to tell someone not to do that, but it's really a bad idea.
It's really bad idea.
Man.
Yeah, it is.
Because then the kids can really feel the energy.
Exactly, right.
And
they're not happy either. Like the two
No.
people,
Right, exactly.
which
right.
to me is just really more important than the kids. It's
And then the lesson they learn. Oh, blasphemy, Justin.
how dare I?
Your happiness is more important.
How dare I speak truth?
The lesson they learned though out of that is, I have to just be in a relationship that I'm not happy with just because it'll be good for other people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're passing on to them.
That's what you're passing on.
Right. So that's all going to be ego based. All right. When it's coming out of fear, when it's coming out of something that's not your highest joy, okay, that's coming out of fear. Now, you also have to look at the feeling that you get from it, and that will always be, a major indicator. If what you're doing causes, you can get short-term pleasure out of something. It's like, okay, this is working. You can even get relief out of it. But are you really getting long-term, lasting, deep joy out of it? Like, this is it. Have you ever done something that right away, it just rings that bell? It just,
yes,
this is it.
Yes.
Yep.
This is it. This is what I meant to do. This is what I came to do.
Yep, I have.
That's when it's there. Now, there are a lot of other levels under that aren't horrible.
It
but it's
might
not
even
it.
help get you there.
Might even
They're
help,
not
right.
it. There's nothing wrong with using a semi-core
Steps.
goal to get to the actual core goal.
But
But you don't want to settle. That's where it gets people in trouble, is they get something that feels okay, then it just settle. That is absolutely a no-no.
Right. But when you get there, when you feel that deep resonance, that click, it's everything falls into place. And that's it. That's what you're looking for, ultimately. Okay? Now, again, it doesn't have to be with something super spiritual. I mean, let me just tell you this, because this is simple logic. If everyone's deepest core desire was something to do with serving the world and healing and light work and spiritual stuff, whatnot, where would be our doctors and our accountants and our lawyers and our teachers and our engineers and our programmers?
You.
And our business owners, especially like small business owners. Where would be all those people?
It has to have that thrum, that resonance.
Right.
That's by all means you can do some of the other stuff that, if you make yourself feel better, the serving stuff. But if you're supposed to be an engineer,
right, that's going to be it.
That's going to be it. Now, by all means, learn the law of attraction, so you can manifest better jobs. But be an engineer.
I have to tell you something I realized, and this is really, I think, part of the core of why I talked about this topic. I've had my job now for almost 4 months. Can you believe that? And, it's like, I realized something as time went on. So a few weeks ago, maybe a week or two ago, one of my coworkers who's in charge of marketing wanted to write a series of blog posts about all of our the company's employees. Okay? Because we all work remotely and we all come from such different areas and cultures and whatnot. And so, she asks a series of questions, and one of the questions, okay, why did you join this company? I'm not going to give the name. Why did you join this company? You know, why, what did you do before you came here? Things like that, right? Normal stuff, that whatever you expect. Well, everyone's answers were very similar with those few questions. Okay, you know what they did before, some variation of what they're doing now, some kind of programming, some sort of either freelance or working for another company, or doing their own projects or whatever. Right? Why they joined, I mean, it just varies for each one, but whatever. But my answer, and I'm thinking, how honest should I be here? Because I don't want to this is not my thing. Well, before I came here, I said, well, I did, and I still do. I have my own business where I do coaching, right? And actually, I have this intern that I'm mentoring, and we've become really, really good friends, and he I didn't even give him my website. He found my website.
He loves it.
And he loves it. He's like, I have so much more respect for you now that I found your website and I know what you're all about and everything.
Oh, so you didn't have respect for me before?
Well, exactly. Look, this guy's from Vietnam. His native language is not English, so but so
he's gonna send us food.
Yeah, he wants to send us Vietnamese food.
Oh, that is cool.
I know. He's a college student. He's so nice. Anyway, so I said, I did coaching, and I said I still do. I didn't, I still do it on the side or whatever. I didn't want to give the full story of, that's sort of my long-term goal. But I realized, and then, every week when we have our meetings, we have our dev meetings, and I'm like, everyone's super into this stuff. Like, this is their life. Right? And I'm like, I enjoy the topic. I'm really good at it. I enjoy the topic, but I realized it's not on a deep, deep core level me.
I kind of knew that when you joined it. I'm like,
right.
This is going to just help him facilitate his business.
Right.
I mean, I knew that from the house.
I wasn't sure at first. I mean, I had to search. I had to consider giving the whole thing up, the vision up, in order to realize how valuable it really was and how much a part of me it really was. But the more I get into the job, the more I realize I feel sort of like an outsider, because I don't share that core essence. I mean, obviously everyone's core essence is different, but these people are programmers. That's who they are. That's what they do. That's what they live for. I'm not, I perform programming. That's a task I do. But you say we know how powerful the term "I am" is. Mm-hmm. I am not a programmer.
This is just a step.
As a core attribute of my being, I'm not a programmer. I perform programming. I'm good at programming. I am not a programmer. I am.
That's
right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I am let's say a teacher of spiritual principles, a coach, a guide, whatever.
Yep.
So when I say that, that's a thrill. You can feel it resonate as you speak those words, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's who I am. That's what I do. That's my profession in the deepest sense of the term, as in what I do with my life. So, but it's not bad either way. Like, these other people, their thing is programming. Someone has to be.
Yeah.
Someone has to be.
Yeah, someone has to do that. That has to be the thing that sings to their core essence.
Right. So it's not just what's the spiritual thing. I mean, spirituality is everything. Spirit and matter are one and the same. Your thing might be being a doctor, being a lawyer, being an accountant. And we have an accountant we just hired a few months ago who's amazing. You can tell she loves her job.
And what you want is to be spiritually connected to the job. To the job.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be a spiritual job. It just has to be
right.
Spiritually connected. For me, I'm not truly disability field.
Right, exactly.
I enjoy it, and that's supposed to support my other endeavors. But for me, it's sort of my essence is sort of it's like a warrior soul, I guess. So anything that it's it's difficult in the disability field to find that. So
I understand that.
but it just so happens that's where I am. So that's why I like the accessibility part, the
Right.
508 ADA compliance part.
Sure.
Things that's kind of where I'd like to go. But
Sure.
I work other jobs. That's fine, like the one I'm applying for. But so for me, I've got a lot of different. I'm more business-like. I'm not warm and fuzzy. So
Right.
I love the spiritual and the energy field. That actually is what I'd like to do mostly. That sings to me. But I know that there are other parts that I'm actually going to have to discover those
Sure.
jobs and careers. I'm okay with that because mine is strange. It just doesn't do quite what it's like. The things that I should be diving into, I don't
Right.
always want to dive right in. But I may do things because I'm good at it. So the one thing for me is if I'm good at something, I like to do it because it gives me like this accomplishment.
Sure.
sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so that's my thing. But then I have to leave it to do something else because for my soul, my essence is an essence of balance and strength.
Sure. Sure.
So that's kind of what I go for.
Yeah, but so the point is that it's not always going to be those super spiritual fields. It's going to be something different for everyone. I mean, it's just how it is. So you have to know what it is for you, and don't think it has to be some kind of selfless world-serving field. It doesn't have to be.
Because every job
Is important.
the world needs.
Right.
Now, for me, I do music at a church, which, I mean, it does happen to be spiritual, but, I mean, that's my preference.
Right.
And that really, like, when I started doing it for the Catholic Church, I was like, oh, this is exactly what I love doing.
Right.
But I wonder if you could almost have more than one soul essence, because
Oh, sure.
Different
like,
facets.
Well, I would say, like, you can have different desires in attunement, in alignment, in resonance with. It's not just like one thing. Like, okay, so you're gonna have
Different facet.
that desire that is okay. Your job. You might even have a few facets, a few aspects of that.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have the relationship that you're most resonant with. You're gonna have the place you want to live in that's the most resonant. Every part of your
Right.
life is going to have a core essence. Like an aspect that is resonating with your core essence.
Well, and for me, my theme is healing. I'm a
Sure.
healer. So I use my music as a healing tool.
Right.
I also use my hands as a healing tool.
Right.
But I feel like it's all the same thing. But if I don't do one thing though, I feel like something's missing.
Yeah.
Like it's got to be both.
Yeah.
And I do
Right.
both. One is just not paid.
Right.
The healing through the hands-on healing I don't obviously charge, but
Right.
the rest of it, like the music, I do as a job.
Right. Yeah.
So it's all the same thing to me.
Sure. Yeah. Every part of your life, and this is the other thing. Every part of your life, no matter how significant or insignificant it seems, has a resonance or can have a resonance with your core essence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It could be anything. The house you live in, you might not like your house, and your house might not be the perfect reflection of who you are. So you might move to a different house, or you might remodel your current house. But
I feel a connection to the one we live in.
yeah, but see, so I would almost see, so kind of taking a new meaning of the word law of attraction, attracting all elements of your life, kind of like planets revolving around a star, that are in perfect resonance to who you are in the core of your being.
I love it.
Repeat
Ooh.
So the law of attraction is the act of attracting into orbit, like planets around a star, around a sun, all aspects of your life that are in perfect resonance with who you are. And when you are in that place, that is, coming back to the hierarchy of need, self-actualization,
Yep.
or whatever.
That's the highest.
Man, that's a good definition. That might be better than the one that someone told me was stepping out of your ego into your higher self.
Right.
And I thought is a way to step out of your ego into your higher self.
Sure.
I kind of like and I guess that's true, but I kind of like the one you just gave, which is
when every part of your life is fully resonating with that part, with that deepest core, that's when you're there.
And is that not self-actualization?
Right, you're actualizing who you are. Now, this is a lifelong journey. Like I said, you might not get there in a year or 2 years or 5 years or even 10 years, but this is a process. How do you get there, though? That's the question. How do you get there? You get there by boldly, unapologetically living who you are. This is who I am. And, every time you show another, like a false part of yourself to the world, a facade, an egoic face, so to speak, you're attracting false things that aren't going to resonate. If you were to live as truly who you are every moment of every day for the rest of your life, you could only resonate. You could only attract those things that were in resonance with your core essence. Right? Because if the law of attraction is such that whatever you have within, whatever you hold within, you get without. Mm-hmm. If you hold within a false pretense, a false front,
that's what you'll get.
That's what you'll get. If, like I tried holding, again, I know it's a temporary step, but I'm not condemning my own action, but if I hold within, if I pretend to be a programmer, I'm going to get things that just don't feel quite, it just doesn't match. Like, okay, this is a great step, but it's just not, it's not fitting.
It's your step to being actualized.
Right. Yeah. But if I hold within myself, if I'm true to myself every moment of every day, I can only attract the best, highest things.
Right.
For myself in every part of life. And that's not easy, but that's because sometimes we don't even know what that true essence, that core is, how to be true to ourselves. But that's what it takes. Being true, absolutely true to yourself will inevitably, because of the law of attraction, attract only those things that are perfectly in resonance and alignment with who you are as a soul. So that is extremely important, as you can see, as is obvious. One last point that I think a lot of people get anxious about is, people will say, is my desire, what if my desire is only egoic? What if my desire is only, is not something the universe wants for me, or is not something I'm meant to have? Well, guess what? If your desire is from your core essence, that's what the universe wants you to have.
I mean, you're meant to have whatever you attract from within.
Right.
You're meant to have it, even if you didn't want it.
There was a priest that just recently passed away, but I don't really know much of the story, but basically he wrote about, what is God's will for you. Mm-hmm, and he nipped that right in the bud. Like, because people would always say, I want what God wants for me, blah, 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 blah. And he did not agree with that.
Right.
He said, well, what God wants for you is what the desire of your heart is.
Right.
Because it was, you were born to have that.
Right.
Like, it's what you were meant to do. It's your core essence.
Exactly.
I mean, he didn't say core essence, but basically your desire, your deepest desire it's meant to be, because that's what it is. So he got rid of that idea.
Right. If this weren't your core desire, you wouldn't feel so strongly about it.
Exactly.
Like, if you say, I really, like, my fear used to be, I really want to be some sort of, like, a spiritual teacher or guide, or, like someone who passes on these sorts of principles. What if that's not what I'm meant to do? But my desire was so strong, of course it was what I was meant to do. Like, obviously. It's just I had to find a path to get there. It's not going to be handed to you. Now, here, so someone might say, well, what if I don't know what that core desire is? So if it is your core desire, if it's in alignment and resonance with your core essence, it will be something that you're meant to have. It will come. As long as you create the path to that point.
Yeah.
If it's something that is out of ego, you will realize it soon enough, and then you don't want it anyway.
It'll be shallow.
It'll be shallow. Like, it reminds me of when I almost wanted to go back to school to be an accountant. I'm like, well, this isn't really working out, so I'm going to go back to school. And, and I tried walking that path. I went in that direction, and it just didn't fit. Obstacles came up. Nope. And then I thought it's what I really wanted, but I realized, I was just doing it out of fear. It's not really what I wanted.
And yeah, that's, like I say, it's okay to use stepping stones.
Right.
It's okay to use something to support your soul's effort until your soul's desires for as long as you want, as long as you're living out your soul's desires until you can get to a spot where that's all you're doing.
Exactly.
That's okay to do, and then you can change as you go. Your essence and what sings to you can change as you go. So you shouldn't worry about. Yeah, you shouldn't worry about what if they don't want to have it. I mean, if you're worried about that, then it's probably not something then it's probably not it. I mean,
right. Or it is, and you're so insecure about it. Like,
yeah,
because, and I do want to clarify, your essence itself doesn't change, but your expression of that essence will evolve over time. Your essence is your essence is static from the moment you're born. It's set.
Yeah, it's set.
It's who you are.
I think our journey is finding it.
Yeah, your journey is finding it and expressing it in the purest way possible.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is meant to do that. I see people around me who don't do that, and they just are empty shells, and it really makes me so sad.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is meant to find that. Okay? Everyone is meant to find that. And people are successful to various degrees. Some people don't do it at all and just are totally disconnected from that, and you'll see it in their lives because they're unhappy. Some people get partially there and they're pretty happy and things are going pretty well, but not perfect. Ideally, I want to get all the way there if I can. I'm an all or nothing kind of person, right? That's Christine.
Oh
yeah. Whether I will or not, who knows? I hope I will. I still have a long time ahead of me. That's my goal. I want to get completely to the point where I'm expressing my core essence every moment of every day and attracting the best and highest expression of that into my life all the time. I think that should be all of our goals. It's a journey, though. Like I said, it's something you work towards, right? It's not something you just get just like that, You have to work towards it. Mm-hmm. The universe doesn't just hand it to you, because the whole... It's the journey that is the important part, not as much the destination. The destination is awesome.
Life is a journey, not a destination.
Right, but the universe isn't going to just hand it, here you go. Here's your core essence and all your desires. And no, it's the journey of getting there. And this is so much deeper than just, again, write it on a vision board, and visualize it and affirm it. But finding it, working through it, working through the resistance, getting to that point, truly understanding and expressing who you are. This is all really, really significant, long journey. Extensive journey. Not necessarily, it doesn't have to be long, but usually is long. Right? So don't rush things. It doesn't mean you can't, if you have a desire, I'm not saying you can't have a desire tomorrow. You're always going to have, let's say, big, medium, small desires, like current level, next level, ultimate level goals. But all those things can be an expression of your core essence. Okay? So it can be an expression of your core essence to wake up tomorrow and have cereal for breakfast. If that's what brings you joy, that's your core essence.
Chocolate!
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, I'm just saying.
Right. Raisin Bran, or mini wheats, frosted mini wheats.
Count Chocula, Lucky Charm.
Ew, I hate Lucky Charms.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is the best.
Christine likes that too.
You do too.
I do too, but I like my mini wheats better.
You like Raisin Bran.
I like Raisin Bran too.
Sweet.
Old man cereal.
So, it's like was it Joseph Campbell says, follow your bliss. That's your core essence. Follow your bliss, and that will take you there. Right? If that's getting up tomorrow and having cereal, that's your core essence. If that's Going on vacation, that's your core essence. Just, it can be small things. It doesn't have to be really big, huge, like life-changing things. It can be small little things. What do you want to do now? That's your, right now I want to be doing this podcast. That's my core essence. Right? Like, what is the thing you want to do right now? That is what your core essence is. That is what the expression of your core essence is. Always do what brings you the most joy. And if you can't, for some reason, then get to that point as quickly as possible. Like if you say, well, I'd rather not go to my job that I'm really not crazy about or something. Okay, fair enough. But you know what? That's temporary. So create a pathway to the point where you wake up every morning and you can't wait to do what you're going to do that day. Because that's possible. And you're meant to have that. You're not meant to struggle. You're not meant to do something you don't enjoy. You're meant to have that. If you don't have it right now, fine. But
you'll get it.
You'll get it.
But you can't also be like, I don't want to go to work today. I don't want to go to work today.
Right. Yeah,
and be all miserable about it, because if you know it's temporary, then you can deal with it.
Exactly.
And you can find the joyful things about it.
Exactly.
Also, you can, and if you don't know exactly what the entire picture of what the expression of your soul essence is, you can ask your spirit guides to help you find that.
Sure, they'll help you. Yeah, and it'll unfold. It'll blossom over time. It's like a flower. You water it by your attention, and over time you realize more and more of what that is. But you have to start. So that was a very deep discussion and very profound. I think. I hope it really helps you to know where you're going. Essentially, are you going towards your core essence or away from it? That's the question. And every day you should be getting closer and closer to that core essence. That's the goal. So I hope that this helps you to find that and have the courage to go in that direction. So once again, if you would like to see the show notes for this podcast or leave a comment, you can go to cocreationcoaching.org/create023. And if you'd like to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or rate or review us, you can go to cocreationcoaching.org/create-iTunes. So once again, thank you so much for listening, everyone. We will be back next week for another episode of Co-Create Your Life. I am Brandon Oliveris.
And I'm Christine Oliveris.
And I'm Justin Williams.
Anything is possible.